Jake, tell me honestly. If I ran over there right now and gave Elena Vance a bottle of water, what are my odds? My roommate, Chris Haw, lowered his voice, hiding like a thief behind the old oak tree next to the basketball court. He sounded like a man marching to the gallows. I shifted the lollipop to the other side of my mouth, leaning against the tree trunk without bothering to lift my eyelids. 0%. Why, Chris protested. Because it's fall. The high is 73 degrees. Not hot. Not cold. Nobody is thirsty enough after a game to need a warm drink from a desperate stranger. I mumbled around the candy stick. Besides, she just rejected a Gatorade from the star quarterback. Chris followed my gaze. Sure enough. Not far away. Brad Jensen, 6'1" and built like a tank, was walking back with a look of utter defeat, clutching a bottle of water. His retreating figure looked as bleak as a dead leaf in the wind. Damn it. Chris cursed under his breath, deflating entirely. Then what do I do? Is my romance over before it even began? I glanced at him. Chris, my legendary idiot of a roommate, had been hooked since freshman orientation. One glimpse of the economics department's it girl, now the undisputed campus queen, Elena Vance, and his soul had left his body. Since then, he had vowed to pluck this flower from the high peak. To achieve this, he'd studied the art of war, the 48 laws of power, and even bought a copy of Husbandry for Dummies, claiming he needed to understand the inner world of the female species by analogy. However, a year had passed, and the distance between him and Elena remained exactly one track field's length, plus an invisible barrier called GATS. Elena Vance lived up to her reputation. Eyes like a deer in the woods, clear and distant, skin that seemed to glow. Standing there, she seemed to purify the air around her. Crucially, she was a super genius, swimming in scholarships and living in a library. A completely different species from slackers like us who pray to the curved gods before every exam. Give it up, man. You can't handle it, I said, patting Chris's shoulder with gravitas. Naughty word quit isn't in Chris Hull's dictionary. Jason suddenly straightened his spine, fire reigniting in his eyes. I need a foolproof strategy. I roll my eyes. Too lazy to argue. I was used to these monthly bursts of adrenaline. Just then, Elena, having finished her practice, wiped sweat from her forehead with a towel and started walking in our direction. Chris's breathing stopped instantly. He froze like a wooden statue, fingers digging into the tree bark, his face twitching with nerves. I chewed on my lollipop, ready to witness another one of his tactical retreats. Elena got closer. A few strands of wet hair stuck to her pale neck. In the sunlight, the scene looked as clean as a painting. She reached our tree and stopped. Chris's body was pulled tight like a drawn bow. I could practically hear the loud gulp as he swallowed. This is it, bro. Go for it. I chewed him on with my eyes. Then I watched Elena's clear doe-like eyes drift right past the hyperventilating in Chris and land on me. No, to be precise. They landed on the lollipops sticking out of my mouth. The air seemed to freeze for 3 seconds. Excuse me, she spoke, her voice cool as spring water. Is that lollipop strawberry flavored? Me ? Chris. I blinked instinctively, pulled the stick out of my mouth and looked at it. I think so. Oh, Ella nodded. Then under the petrified gazes of both Chris and me, she turned around and walked away on her long legs. From start to finish, she hadn't spared Chris a single glance. It was as if my roommate, currently overflowing with passion and ready to charge for love, was just a silent oak tree. It wasn't until Elena disappeared at the end of the road that Chris asked slowly, in a sleepwalking tone, Jay, did she just talk to you? Yeah, she asked you what flavor your lollipop was. Yep, so why didn't she ask me? Chris's voice was filled with philosophical confusion. I'm standing right here. I'm a full-sized human being. Can't she see me? I shoved the lollipop back in my mouth and crunched it. Maybe you just have a low-profile face. Get lost. That night, Chris had insomnia. He tossed and turned in bed like a fish thrown on a dry land. Jay, you asleep? Yes, liar. You just answered me. Hey, what do you think Elena meant today? Was she using a lollipop to imply something to me? I couldn't take it anymore and sat up. She implied that you should dream less and sleep more. No, Chris sat up abruptly too. In the darkness, his eyes shone like light bulbs. I get it. It's a classic diversion tactic. Her real target is me. But she was too shy to speak to me directly. So she talked to you to get my attention. Me, whatever makes you happy. That has to be it. Chris slapped his thigh excitedly. Tomorrow, Tomorrow I'm gonna buy a whole box of strawberry lollipops and accidentally bump into her on her way to the library. I sigh. Lay back down and pulled the covers over my head. Great. The guy has officially lost it. However, I underestimated how ridiculous things would get. The next day, forced to accompany Chris while he squatted near the library entrance with a pocket full of lollipops. We saw Elena again. She was wearing a white dress today, hair down over her shoulders, holding a few books, walking quietly from a distance. She's coming, she's coming. Chris's palms were sweating as he pulled out a lollipop, gripping it like a lifeline. Go on, I urged. I am, while legs are jelly. Just as Elena was about to pass us, Chris gritted his teeth, seemingly making a massive decision, and suddenly lunged forward. Elena. His voice cracked from tension. Elena stopped and looked at him with slight confusion. Chris turned betrayed, shakily extending the lollipop. He stammered, I am Chris Hall, I like you eat candy. I cover my face. I can't watch. Truly, I can't watch. This confession was so awkward. I could have built a mansion with my curled toes. Elena looked at the lollipop in his hand, then at his face, which was turning purple from holding his breath. Her brow furrowed slightly. She didn't take it, nor did she speak. Just as Chris was about to spontaneously combust, Elena's gaze once again, precisely and deliberately bypassed him and landed on me. Then she spoke. Jason Hayes. What flavor is your lollipop today? Me Chris deceased. Section. The spicy Rhyme-on incident. I don't remember how Chris floated back to the dorm from the library. I only remember that after we got back, he lay stiff on his bed, covered head to toe with his quilt, motionless, like a corpse that had lost its dreams. I tried to comfort him. Chris, look on the bright side. There are plenty of fish in the sea. A muffled voice came from under the quilt. But I only like that specific fish. Maybe she was just curious about the candy. It didn't mean anything else. Then you tell me why the hell she didn't ask me. But specifically asked you. He suddenly threw off the quilt, eyes red like an angry rabbit. Did you eat a lollipop today too? I silently pulled an unwrapped orange lollipop from my pocket. Chris, he wailed, fell back on the bed, and wrapped himself tighter. Jason Hayes. I hate you. I sighed, tore off the wrapper, and popped the candy into my mouth. Sweet. But my mood wasn't sweet at all. This whole thing was weird. Me Jason Hayes, an utterly average college student, looks slightly above average. The kind you wouldn't look twice at in a crowd. Grades mid tier. Passing was victory. Hobby sleeping. Gaming. Also known as slacking. Life motto if I lie flat enough. The grind can't crush me. Undell in advance. Campus queen. Genius. The white moonlight dream girl of countless guys. Our interaction was less than my interaction with the Unsecretary General. Why did she know my name? And why talk to me 2 days in a row using such a buzz or lollipop method? I couldn't figure out. The only explanation was that during his pursuit of Eleanor, Chris might have accidentally leaked my info, like showing my photo and asking, "Hey beautiful, have you seen my handsome roommate?" Very possible. Given Chris's brain circuitry, he was capable of anything. To verify my theory and to help my poor roommate escape his misery sooner, I decided to take the initiative. I sent Eleanor a friend request on Instagram. Her handle was something Chris had bought for $50 from a senior in the student union. He kept it pinned at the top of his chats, sending good morning and good night daily, rain or shine. Despite never receiving a reply, my request message read, "Hi Eleanor, I'm Jason Hayes. I want to explain about my roommate Chris Hall." Then I tossed my phone aside, ready to shower and sleep. I figured she either wouldn't accept it or would reply with a cold. Less than a minute later, my phone dinged. "Eleanor, V has accepted your follow request." I paused. That fast? Immediately, a DM popped up. "Eleanor, we've been waiting for you." Me waiting for me? Waiting for what? Waiting for me to add her. I was confused. This was developing way beyond my expectations. I chose my words carefully about my roommate Chris. He might be a little over-enthusiastic. If he caused you any trouble, I apologize on his behalf. Silence on the other end for a while. Just when I thought she wouldn't reply, a message came through. Elaine_V. What about you? Meme, what about me? Elaine_V. Are you troubled by me? I stared at the words on the screen, lost in thought. That was a loaded question. If I said yes, I'd look narcissistic. If I said no, and she actually had designs on me, I'd be walking right into a trap. I decided to play dumb. Jason, we don't really know each other well. Do we? I'll end up with a geek Govind. Yeah, that's why I want to get to know you better. Holy crap. A curveball. She's a direct shooter. I felt my CPU overheating. This wasn't following the script. In a normal college romance, shouldn't a popular girl look down on a loser like me? Until some event reveals my hidden talent, leading to a slow burn. Why skip straight to I want to get to know you? Director, did I get the wrong script? Before I could figure out how to reply, the phone buzzed again. Elena under scurvy. Are you free tomorrow night? Grab dinner. I was completely stunned. A date. Just like that. I instinctively glanced at Chris, playing dead on his bed. Bro, I'm sorry. Your goddess seems to want to hit on me. I took a deep breath and typed sorry. Promised my roommate we'd game tomorrow night. This was the most polite yet firm rejection I could think of. Elaine underscore the day after tomorrow. Jason. Have to study for calculus. Elaine underscore the day after that. Jason. Have to wash a week's worth of socks. Silence finally ensued on the other end. I exhaled feeling like a genius. However, 30 seconds later. Elena underscore V. I'll wash them for you. I threw the phone aside and buried my face in my pillow. I couldn't talk to her anymore. The world had gone mad. The next day, Chris miraculously resurrected. He sat across from me with dark circles under his eyes, looking as serious as a delegate at On Summit. Jay, after a night of deep reflection, I've had an epiphany. What epiphany? Idine. She's testing me. Chris slammed the table. She's deliberately being nice to you to see my reaction, to see if I'm determined enough. It's a setup. I looked at him with admiration. Honestly, the mental gymnastics required to reach the conclusion were impressive. So, I decided. Chris clenches his fist. I'm gonna double my efforts. I'll show her my sincerity. Tonight. At her favorite spicy ramen spot. Mama Lou's. I'm going to engineer a perfect accidental encounter. Me good luck. No, you have to come with me. Chris grabbed my arm. You're my wingman. When a moment comes, you have to hype me up. I wanted to refuse. But seeing his hopeful eyes, I softened. Fine, I'll walk my brother down this last mile. So at 7 p.m., Chris and I suspiciously appeared at Mama Lou's on the back street near campus. The place was famous for being cheap and delicious. So it was packed. We barely found seats in a corner. Chris kept stretching his neck to scan the crowd while nervously fixing his hair. Jay, do I look handsome today? Handsome. Drop dead gorgeous. When she comes in, I'll pretend to bump into her and then, before he could finish, the wind chimes at the door tinkled. Elena, wearing a simple white t-shirt and jeans, walked in. But she was here. She seemed used to the crowd, expertly grabbing a tray, queuing up, and then carrying a steaming bowl of spicy ramen to look for a seat. Chris's eyes went straight. She's here. She's here. He was about to stand up and perform his clumsy accidental meeting routine when he saw Elena's gaze sweep the room and land straight on our table. Then, carrying her bowl, she walked right toward us. Chris was so excited his face turned red. He's coming over. She's walking toward me. Jay, she must be looking for me. I also thought. Surely she's looking for him this time. After all, the shop was packed. What are the odds? Elena walked up to our table. She glanced at Chris, who was vibrating with excitement, and then turned her gaze to me. She pointed to the empty seat across from me, which was right next to Chris, and asked softly, Student, is anyone sitting here? The smile on Chris's face froze. I froze too. Lady, my roommate is sitting right there. Can't you see him? He's bigger than me. And you're asking me if anyone is sitting there. Section. The library showdown. And no one. Before I could react, Chris had already squeezed those words through his teeth with a smile uglier than crying. Then actively, consciously, even humbly, he scooted over to give Elena more space. I watched him, emotions churning. Bro, why do you do this to yourself? Sipping till the end leaves you with nothing. You just turned yourself into a footstool. Elena said thanks and sat down gracefully right next to Chris, facing me. Instantly, our tiny square table formed a Bowser triangle. Me and Elena face to face. Chris sitting next to Elena like a golden retriever waiting for a treat. The air was filled with the smell of spicy oil and awkwardness. Chris clearly hadn't given up. He took a deep breath, gathered his courage, and initiated conversation. Elena, what a coincidence. You like spicy ramen too. I almost spit out my soup. Nonsense. She didn't come to eat ramen. She come to wash dishes. Elena nodded politely, gave a generic, and lowered her head to eat quietly. Conversation terminated. Chris wasn't discouraged. He tried again. Hi, I'm Chris Hall, computer science major. We met at the library entrance the other day. Elena gave another. Picked up a fishball and blew on it. Conversation terminated again. I couldn't watch anymore. I kicked Chris under the table, signaling him to stop humiliating himself. But Chris interpreted the signal wrong. He thought I was encouraging him. He straightened up and unleashed his killer move. Elena, I heard you like reading. Actually, I've been reading a book on quantum physics lately. I feel like Jason. Elena suddenly spoke, cutting off Chris's lecture. Chris and I both paused. She looked up, those clear eyes fixed on me. How is your calculus review going? Me, Chris. I felt an invisible arrow pierce Chris's heart accurately. Brutal. Absolutely brutal. Before I could answer, Elena stabbed again. Did you finish washing those socks? This time I couldn't hold it back. I sprayed soup. Luckily I turned my head in time when the campus queen across from me would have had a spicy shower. I coughed for a while, face turning red. Lady, is this necessary? Exposing me in front of my roommate. Duel. I have no dignity. I saw Chris's face turn from red to green, then green to white. He stared blankly at Elena, then at me, mouth open wide enough to fit an egg. His not-so-sharp brain clearly couldn't process this complex information. Calculus sucks. How did these two unrelated words come out of Elena's mouth? And how are they connected to Jason? What happened between them? I felt Chris's worldview collapsing. It's okay. Review is done. Socks are washed. I wiped my mouth and answered bracingly. Oh, that's good. Elena nodded. Then she said something that made both Chris and me lose our souls. Then I'll come find you at the library tomorrow. I have a few questions I don't understand either. Tomorrow. Library. Find you. These 3 points exploded over Chris's head like 3 landmines. I saw his body sway. He almost slid off his chair. I panicked too. Don't. I blurted out. I am busy tomorrow. Didn't you say you finished reviewing? Elena looked at me with innocent eyes. I have to help my roommate move stuff. I improvised, grabbing the petrified Chris by the shoulder. Right. Chris nodded mechanically like a puppet with its strings cut. A trace of disappointment flashed in Elena's eyes. Barely noticeable. Okay then. With that, she lowered her head and continued eating her ramen, as if that heart-stopping conversation was just idle chatter. But I knew it wasn't that simple. I sat on pins and needles for the rest of the meal. Chris meanwhile remained in a catatonic state of who am I? Where am I? What am I doing? Finally, Elena finished and left. Only then did Chris seem to come back to life. He turned his head toward me slowly, frame by frame. His eyes were full of grief, accusation and a hint of injustice. Jason, dear, don't you have something to explain to me? Is that what you think? Then what is it? He slammed the table, his voice cracking. Calculus sucks. The library. How far have you gone behind my back? I rubbed my temples, getting a headache. We have absolutely no relationship. We just chatted a few lines on Instagram yesterday. Chat a few lines and you're talking about socks. Chris looked at me like I was treating him like an idiot. How deep did you go to get to such an intimate topic? I couldn't explain. I couldn't tell him I used washing socks as a ridiculous excuse to reject a date. Could I? He wouldn't believe it. He'd just think I was bragging. Anyway, we are innocent, was my pale defense. Innocent. Chris sneered. Tomorrow, I'm going to the library to witness your innocence with my own eyes. He picked up his untouched bowl of ramen and began shoveling it into his mouth, turning grief into appetite. I watched him inside silently. It was over. Tomorrow's library session was destined to be a bloodbath. Sure enough, the next afternoon, just as I found a corner in the library to enjoy some solitude, Chris appeared like a ghost holding a stack of books and sat opposite me. He wore thick, black-rimmed glasses, expression serious, eyes sharp, looking exactly like a private investigator catching a cheater. I'm warning you, Jason, he whispered. Today, if Elena dares to come over, I will. I will. Yeah, I will, for a long time without coming up with anything. I ignored him, put on my headphones and started listening to music. However, the music couldn't block out my fate. About half an hour later, a beautiful figure appeared in our field of vision. She wore a pale, yellow sweater today, holding a thick textbook, weaving through the bookshelves like a butterfly looking for a place to land. Chris's body instantly tensed up. My heart jumped to my throat. Don't come over. Don't come over. Please don't come over. I chanted internally. But Murphy's Law is never absent. Elena's eyes lit up when she saw me. and she walked straight toward her corner. Chris clenched his fists. My hand instinctively gripped my phone, ready to dial 911. Eleanor reached her table. This time, she didn't even ask. Campus queen. She pulled out the chair next to me and sat down. The movement was fluid and natural, as if she sat there every day. Our row instantly became the center of attention. Countless gossiping eyes projected beams onto us from all directions. Chris's face had turned pig liver purple. My scalp went numb. Jason. Elena put down her book, leaning slightly toward me, a faint scent of shampoo drifting over her. About that problem yesterday. Can I ask you now? Her voice wasn't loud, but, in the quiet library, it was as clear as thunder. I saw Chris sitting opposite start to tremble. I knew the volcano was about to erupt. Section. Birth of Public Enemy. No. No, you can't. A roar of suppressed rage shattered the library's silence. It was Chris. He stood up abruptly, his chair screeching against the floor with a piercing screech. Everyone's eyes instantly locked onto him. The librarian lady's sharp gaze shot over like throwing knives. Chris's face was flushed. He pointed at me, then at Elena, lips trembling, unable to form a coherent sentence. You guys. Elena seemed startled by his sudden outburst. She frowned, looking at Chris with confusion and disdain. Yes, disdain. It was a look that said, where did this lunatic come from? That look was the final straw for Chris. He felt utterly humiliated. He took a deep breath, seeming to use all his strength, and shouted, Jason Hayes, you traitor! How could you do this to me? The crowd went into an uproar. Traitor! What kind of love-hate drama was this? I saw the flames of gossip burning in the eyes of the surrounding students. I wished I could find a crack in the floor and crawl in. Student, this is a library. Take your fight outside. The librarian finally roared with full lung capacity. Chris looked like he'd been doused with ice water. He sobered up slightly, glared at me viciously, glanced at the bewildered Elena, grabbed his books, and stormed out without looking back. His retreating figure was filled with tragedy and finality. Like a hero betrayed by the world, I sat there, feeling my life turn gray. I was done for. Not only had I lost a roommate, but I was about to become the public enemy of every guy on campus. What's wrong with him? Elena's voice sounded next to my ear, pulling me back from the edge of a breakdown. I turned and looked at her face, written all over with innocence, and a nameless fire shot up inside me. You're asking me what's wrong with him? I lower my voice, gritting my teeth. Miss Campus Queen, can you please let me off the hook? I'm begging you. What did I do? She blinked those doe eyes, looking completely lost. What did you do? I laughed in anger. Do you know that my roommate, the guy who just left, has been chasing you for a year? You ignored him, but you specifically came over to mess with me. Do you know that because of you, I'm now a sinner in my dorm and a public enemy to the whole school? I got more agitated as I spoke, forgetting we were in a library. Elena listened quietly without interrupting. When I finished, she spoke softly, asking a question I didn't expect. So, do you care about your roommate's feelings? Or do you care about me? Me, seriously? How is this woman's brain wired? I'm talking about international relations, and she wants to talk about romance. My point is her behavior is causing me huge trouble. Her point is whether I care about her. Of course I care about my roommate's feelings. I answered without hesitation. We're bros. Oh, Elena nodded, her expression unreadable. She was silent for a moment, then pushed her thick advanced calculus textbook in front of me. Since you care so much about your bro, you should help me even more. I was even more confused. What kind of god-tier logic is this? Helping you. If he sees us getting closer, won't he be more heartbroken? No, Elena shook her head and analyzed seriously. You helping me with math now is mutual assistance between classmates. It's a pure revolutionary friendship. Once I learn it and ace the exam, I can go thank him. Thank him. Yeah, she said matter-of-factly. Thank him for having such a helpful roommate. Love me. Love my dog. Right. Maybe if I'm happy, I'll agree to his pursuit. He stole the hair. Dumbfounded. In 20 years, I had never seen someone describe freeloading so freshly undelicately. Even adding a touch of it for your own good. This logic was seamless. Impeccable. I actually couldn't find a reason to refute it. Looking into her clear, thirsty for knowledge eyes, I struggled. Reason told me this was a trap, a giant pit. But emotionally, damn it, why did I feel like she made sense? What if she really agreed to date Chris because I tutored her well? Then wouldn't I become the hero of our dorm? I could save the Brotherhood and solve his lifelong singleness. What a magnificent achievement. Thinking of this, the scale in my heart began to tip. Then just one problem, I asked tentatively. The corner of Elena's mouth hooked up in an imperceptible arc. Dealin' so, on that sunny afternoon, under the ambiguous and complex gazes of everyone in the library, I, Jason Hayes' slacker, began tutoring a genius in calculus. The scene was surreal no matter how you looked at it. Even more surreal was that Eleanor really seemed to just want to ask questions. She listened extremely seriously, occasionally asking sharp questions that put massive pressure on me as the teacher. Terrified I'd expose my own ignorance. An hour later, my mouth was dry, and I felt drained. Got it? I asked weakly. Yep, pretty much. Eleanor nodded and closed the book. Thanks, Jason. You teach really well. You're welcome. To show my appreciation, let me buy you Bob a tea. No need. I instantly went on alert like a cat with its tail stepped on. Classmates help each other without expecting returns. Are you kidding? If I go get tea with you and get photographed, I won't just be the campus enemy tomorrow. I'll be the universe's enemy. All right then. Eleanor didn't push it. She packed her things and stood up. I'm heading out. Bye-bye. Watching her leave, I let out a long breath, feeling like I just fought a hard battle. However, I celebrated too early. That night, the campus confessions wall on social media exploded. A high-def photo hit the trending page. In the photo, sitting by the library window in perfect sunlight, Eleanor and I were heads together focused on the same book. The image was aesthetic enough to be a movie still. The headline, breaking, Campus Queen Eleanor Vance possibly taken. The guy's an average Joe from Compton. Below, the comment section had already built his skyscraper of replies. WDF my goddess. My youth is over. Who is this guy? Why him? I object to this marriage. Upstairs. I just asked around. The guy's name is Jason Hayes. He's the one Eleanor publicly confessed to at the library entrance 2 days ago. What was it his roommate who confessed? How did it become him? You guys don't get it. This is called repairing the walkway openly while crossing the tunnel secretly. The real master strike from the shadows. Damn calculated. Stealing his bro's girl while pretending to be innocent. I'm gonna puke. Scumbag. Boycott Jason Hayes. Get back my goddess. I looked at the phone screen. Hands and feet cold. It was over. Jumping into the yellow river wouldn't wash me clean now. Jason Hayes, 1 year in a college, had finally gone viral in a way I never imagined. I had become public enemy no. One section. The challenge from the jock. The first day of being public enemy no. One was excruciating. Walking down the street, I could feel hostile glares from all directions. In the cafeteria line, the guy behind me accidentally rammed me with his tray. On the way back to the dorm, someone even sneered TCH at my back. And the instigator of all this, Mr. Chris Hall, hadn't spoken a word to me all day. He treated me like air. Unseen. Unheard. An invisible Berlin Wall stood between us. I tried to fix things. Chris. Gaming tonight. I'll carry you. He ignored me, put on headphones, and cranked the volume. Chris. I brought your favorite fried chicken. He poked his head out of his bunk, looked at me coldly, and said, take it away. I don't eat trade of food. Then he retreated. I felt like he and I were really done. Worse things were yet to come. The next afternoon, I had no class and was preparing to run in the dorm when the door was kicked open with a violent bang. I jumped in fright. Sitting up in bed, 3 large guys stood in the doorway. The leader wore expensive sportswear. Hair slicked back with oil. It was the sports department hunk, Brad Jensen, the guy Eleanor ejected the other day. Behind him were 2 lackeys, all looking hostile, clearly here to cause trouble. Chris, lying in his bed, took off his headphones and sat up with a look that said, I'm watching a show. Brad scanned the room, his gaze finally locking on me. He pointed his chin at me and asked arrogantly, you're Jason Hayes. My heart sank. Great. The rival is at the door. And a physically dangerous one at that. That's me, I answered, bracing myself. All right, you got guts. Brad sneered, hands in pockets. Walking in. Kid, I don't care what tricks you used to scam Elena. I'm here today to tell you one thing. He walked to my bed, looking down at me, enunciating every word. Stay away from her. She's not something a guy like you can touch. Typical alpha male speech. Too bad I wasn't the fragile heroine in a drama. I frowned. We're just classmates. Are you misunderstanding something? Just classmates. Brad laughed like he heard a huge joke. Do normal classmates read books head to head? Do you think the whole school is blind? We were just discussing a problem. I don't care what problem you were discussing. Brad's patience ran out. He punched the desk next to me, making a loud bang. I'm giving you one choice. Either you go tell Elena right now to keep her distance. Or he paused, cracking his knuckles. Crack. Crack. Or I'll let you taste what it means to have your bones disminus. A naked threat. Anger rose in my chest too, from start to finish. I was innocent. Damn it. Why should I be threatened like this? Before I could speak, Chris on the opposite top bunk suddenly said in a ghostly voice, I support you beating him up. Me bro. You truly are my good brother. Brad clearly didn't expect me to get support from the rival's roommate. He paused, then laughed even more arrogantly. Hear that? Even your roommate can't stand you. Kid, don't be so low. I took a deep breath, stood up, and looked straight into Brad's eyes. First, whatever happens between me and Elena is our business. Nothing to do with you. Second, this is my dorm. Not a place for you to act wild. Third, I paused, staring at him. If you want to fight, I'm game. But I should remind you, the school has cameras. Lose you go to hospital. When you go to jail. Your choice. My tone was calm, but my attitude was firm. A smile on Brad's face slowly froze. He probably didn't expect an average guy like me to stand up to him. His two lackeys started cracking their knuckles, eager to move. The atmosphere in the dorm was instantly tense. Just when I thought a brawl was inevitable, a cool voice like a clear spring came from the doorway. What are you guys doing? We all instinctively looked at the door. There stood Elena, pretty and fresh. She held a basketball, a thin layer of sweat on her forehead, clearly just finished exercising. Her appearance was like a ladle of cold water poured into boiling oil. The arrogance on Brad's face instantly turned to surprise, then a trace of fear. Hey Elena, why are you here? He stammered. Elena ignored him. Her gaze swept over the standoff, finally landing on me. She frowned and asked, Jason, is he bullying you? That phrase, is he bullying you, had more destructive power than any weapon. I saw Brad's face turn green instantly, and Chris on the bed let out a heartbroken groan and covered his head with his quilt. In my heart, 10,000 alpacas stampeded. Lady, can you stop showing up at the most critical moments? Can you stop saying things that cause misunderstandings? Are you saving me? You're pushing me into the fire pit. Now we were having a friendly exchange. I squeezed out a smile uglier than crying. Really? Elena clearly didn't believe it. She turned her gaze to Brad, eyes instantly turning icy. Brad Jensen, I warned you. Don't bother me. And don't bother my friends. Friends. Friends again. I heard the sound of Brad's heartbreak. I also heard Chris's heartbreak. And of course my own. I didn't. Brad tried to defend himself. I don't want to hear your explanation. Elena cut him off coldly. I came here today to find Jason. Saying that, she tossed the basketball in her hands to me. I caught it instinctively. Jason. She looked at me. I was actually holding a hint of challenge this Saturday gym basketball game. Our econ department versus your Komsky department. She paused, enunciating every word. I want to see you on the court. After saying that, she turned and left, leaving our entire dorm room standing in chaos in the wind. I held the basketball still warm from her hands, completely dumbfounded. A basketball game. Me playing. Lady, do you know the last time I touched a basketball was in PE class finals? What are you trying to do? Brad looked at the ball in my hands, then at Elena's retreating figure, his face alternating between pale and green. Finally, he pointed a vicious finger at me and dropped a threat. Kid, you just wait on the court Saturday. I'll show you how to spell the word death. With that, he and his two lackeys stormed off in a rage. The dorm finally returned to peace. I held the basketball, feeling like it was a hot potato. At this moment, Chris slowly poked his head out from the top bunk, looking at me like I was a dead man. Jason, congratulations. Congratulations for what? You have successfully scheduled your own funeral for Saturday at the basketball court. Section. The miracle on the court. The next few days were a living hell. On one hand, I had to deal with hostility from the entire male population. On the other, I had to face Chris's resentful you are about to die face. Worst of all, the stories about the love triangle between me. Elena and Brad had spawned in different versions across campus. Some said I stole love horizontally, prying Brad's cornerstone loose. Some said Elena broke up with the star jock for me. There's even a rumor that Saturday's game was a duel between me and Brad. Loser quits. I just want to say you guys are wasting your talents not writing screenplays. And I, the legendary protagonist, was facing a very real problem. I don't know how to play basketball. Our Komsky team captain, a 6'3" giant, blocked me in the dorm after hearing the news. He patted my shoulder and spoke gravely. Brother, the honor of our department rests on you. I wanted to cry. Captain, I really can't. I'll just be feeding them points. You have to do it. Even if you can't. The captain waved his hand. This is no longer a normal game. It's a battle for dignity. Think about it. If we lose, what will people say? They'll say, men can't even protect their own women. Me, she's not my woman. She will be soon. The captain gave me I get it look. Anyway, Saturday you must play. Even if you just stand there. You are our spiritual symbol. I was utterly hopeless. It was like driving a duck onto a perch. I had no choice. Saturday arrived in a flash. The gym was packed. Standing room only. I seriously suspected half the school came to watch this so-called duel. I sat on the bench in an ill-fitting jersey, palms sweating with nerves. On the opposite side, Econ team had Elena. She wore a refreshing sportswear outfit. Warming up, her lovely figure drew countless screams. On our side, Brad Jensen, acting as a ringer since he was technically sports department but playing as a guest, stared at me like prey, a cruel sneer on his lips. I felt I might die here today. The game began. Our department was weaker than Econ to begin with, and now with the bug-level existence of Brad, the situation was completely one-sided. Brad was like a tiger rampaging through the court, scoring, stealing, blocking, doing it all. Our team was crushed by him alone. Halftime ended with a shocking score, 40-15. We were railing by 25 points. During the break, morale was low, gloom hanging over us. The captain walked up to me, patted my shoulder heavily, and said, Jason, second half. You're up. Me captain. If I go in, we'll lose even worse. I know, the captain sighed. But we can't just surrender. You go out there, even if you do nothing. Let Brad know that Komsky men have a backbone. Looking at my teammates' hopeful eyes, I gritted my teeth. Fine, I'll do it. If it isn't it just embarrassment. My life is embarrassing enough anyway. One more time won't hurt. The second half began. I, Jason Hayes, a basketball idiot, walked onto the court amidst a mix of cheers and boos. Seeing me enter, Brad's smile grew smugger. He deliberately dribbled right up to me, used a flashy nutmeg to bypass me easily, and scored a layup. The crowd erupted in laughter. My face burned. Next, Brax began to humiliate me aggressively. He showed off his skills in front of me repeatedly, treating me like a human background board. I did nothing but run behind him, exhausted. The score gap widened further. Our side had completely given up resistance. Everyone looked at me with pity and mockery. I felt like a clown. Just as I was about to collapse, a basketball, by some devilish luck, rolled to my feet. A teammate had poked it loose during a chaotic scramble. Instinctively, I bent down and picked up the ball. The moment I held the ball, the entire stadium went instantly silent. Everyone's eyes focused on me. Brad stopped too, standing not far away, looking at me leisurely, eyes full of mockery, as if saying, come on, show me what tricks a loser like you has. I held the ball, mind blank. What should I do? Past my teammates were marked tight. Shoot. Don't joke. I trip over my own feet during layups. Time seemed to slow down infinitely. I could hear my heartbeat, loud like a war drum. I could feel countless gazes pricking me like needles. I even saw Elena on the sidelines stand up. A hint of nervousness in her eyes I couldn't understand. Screw it. I don't care anymore. A surge of inexplicable courage rose from my gut. Holding the ball, I looked at the distant hoop, used every ounce of strength in my body, and threw the ball. I closed my eyes. I didn't dare watch the ball's trajectory. I knew it would be an air ball. What awaited me would be even fiercer ridicule. However, the expected laughter didn't come. Instead, there was 3 seconds of deathly silence. Then, holy shit, it went in. Nothing but net. Was that a logo? A tsunami of screams instantly drowned the entire gym. I snapped my eyes open. I saw the ball I had casually checked actually passing through the net. The scoreboard clearly showed it. 3 points valid. I got lucky. I was completely dumbfounded. The whole stadium was dumbfounded, including Brad, whose smile was frozen, including Elena, covering her mouth in disbelief, including my teammates. Jaws dropped like they saw an alien. JJ, the captain stammered. Did you do that on purpose? Or was it luck? What could I say? I could only take a deep breath, put on a mysterious expression, and say faintly, you guess. Section. After the miracle shot. That super long 3- pointer was like a stone thrown into a calm lake, stirring up 1,000 waves. Although we lost the game in the end, nobody remembered the score. Everyone only remembered me. Jason Hayes. And that earth-shattering, history-making, lucky shot. No got like 3-pointer right before the end. After the game, my teammates hoisted me up like a hero and tossed me into the air. Jason is a beast. God, Jason. Take my knees. Lying on his solid arms, looking at the gym lights. I felt my life was as magical as a dream. On the other side, Brad's face was darker than the bottom of a pot. He lost the narrative while winning the stats. I won respect while losing the game. Everyone felt he was the loser. Because the moment the final whistle blew, the first person Elena and to wasn't the winning team, but me, the loser. She ran up to me, handed me a water bottle, looked at me with sparkling eyes and said, Jason, you played really well. At that moment, the camera flashes nearly blinded me. Brad watched this, clenched his fist and finally left the court silently with his team, utterly dejected. I, Jason Hayes, had ascended to godhood in one battle. Overnight, I went from public enemy no 1 inch to the basketball genius who struck a fatal blow for love. The campus forum had thousands of replies on the thread about me. My 3-pointer was made into a GIF, paired with epic anime music and circulated wildly in group chats. This is a real man. Usually keeps a low profile. But when it counts, one shot settles the universe. Love it. This kind of hidden power under an ordinary appearance hits me right in the feels. Used to think he wasn't good enough for the campus queen. Now I think she's punching up. Jason Hayes fan club recruiting though. DM for details. I looked at these comments, falling into deep thought. Is the world a bit too hasty? Just because of a lucky shot. I went from scumbag to male god. Where are your principles? Where's your stance? Of course, the happiest person was the traitor of our dorm, Chris. The night the game ended, he ran over, eagerly massaging my shoulders and legs. Big bro Jay, I was wrong. I shouldn't have doubted you. Turns out you were the hidden boss all along. He looked at me with admiration. That move, playing hard to get then shocking everyone, was masterfully used. Your little bro bows down in admiration. May told you it was luck. I get it. I get it. Chris winked. Master's modesty. Bro Jay. From now on, you are my actual brother. The great cause of chasing Elena depends entirely on you carrying me. I looked at him and sighed silently. Whatever. Let him think what he wants. At least our brotherhood was saved. However, I celebrated too early. Because after the basketball game, Elena sought me out even more frequently and more openly. She would sit at my table in the cafeteria under the guise of discussing calculus. She would sit next to me in the library under the guise of asking computer questions. She would even bring me breakfast under the guise of thanking you for the game. Every time, she acted so natural, so self-righteous, as if we really were just pure classmates. But the ambiguous looks from everyone around us and Chris's growing worship made me sit on pins and needles. I tried to refuse. Elena, no need for breakfast. I have no appetite in the morning. It's okay. Save it for lunch. Elena, the library is too far. Reading in the dorm is the same. It's okay. I can come to your dorm to find you. May felt like I was being entangled in an invisible net. And the weaver was that harmless-looking campus queen opposite me. I was going crazy. I felt if this continued, my relationship with Elena would truly be officially announced by the public. First paragraph minus note. I have to think of a way to cut off her thoughts completely, and let myself return to the peaceful life of a slacker. Soon a dark and windy night, I asked Elena to meet at the small grove of trees near the lake, known as Lover's Lane. This was our first private meeting without the excuse of studying. Elena seemed a bit nervous. She wore a white long dress, standing in the moonlight like a fairy ready to ride the wind away. Jason, you asked me here. Is something wrong? She asked softly. I took a deep breath, deciding to be direct and cut the knot quickly. Elena. I looked straight into her eyes using a seriousness I'd never shown before. I know you might have some misunderstandings about me. Misunderstandings. Yes, I nodded. That shot at the game was dumb luck. I'm not some basketball genius. I know. She nodded. I paused. You know. Yeah, she said. I watched the replay. Your shooting form was extremely non-standard. Clearly a beginner. Me then, why do you still? But she interrupted me. Under that pressure. You dared to shoot. And you made it. I think you are very brave and very interesting. I felt my train of thought being derailed by her again. No, that's not the point. I cleared my throat, pulling the topic back. That's not the point. The point is we are compatible. Why aren't we compatible? We are incompatible everywhere. I started counting on my fingers. Look, you're a genius. I'm a slacker. You're the campus queen. I'm average. You like sports. I like lying down. We are from two completely different worlds. I finished and looked at her nervously, waiting for her reaction. I hoped she would be moved by my heartfelt words, then realize the truth and cut ties with me. However, after listening, Eleanor smiled. In the moonlight, her smile bloomed like a flower. Jason, she said, none of these are problems. What? Because she took a step forward, closing the distance between us. Those clear eyes shone amazingly bright in the night. She looked at me, enunciating every word clearly. I like you. Section. I like you. I like you. Those three words exploded in my brain like a thunderclap. I froze completely. Brain crashing instantly. Moonlight. Trees, shadows. Night breeze. And the smiling girl in front of me. Everything seemed so unreal. I must have heard wrong. Yes, definitely. What did you say? I stammered. Try to confirm if I was hallucinating. Elena saw my dumbfounded look, and her smile deepened. I said, I like you, Jason Hayes. She repeated it again, not loudly, but with resonance. This time, I heard it clearly. Every word hit my heart like a bullet. It's over. This isn't a hallucination. It's real. The campus queen really confessed to me. I felt my worldview being ruthlessly overturned again. Why on earth? What did I do to deserve this favor from the chosen one? Just because I got lucky with a three-pointer? Or because the way I wash socks is particularly handsome? What? I asked the biggest question in my heart. No reason. Eleanor shook her head. Like is like. She paused, seemingly organizing her words. Since freshman orientation. When you overslept and ran past me in flip-flops and shorts, accidentally knocking my speech papers flying and stepping on one. From that moment, I remembered you. May have sinned. I don't remember that at all. Later, I noticed we often ate in the same cafeteria, though you always sat in the most obscure corner. I noticed we both like going to Mama Louise, though you always add 3 servings of noodles. I noticed we both like going to the library on Friday afternoons, though you're always sleeping on the desk. She counted these details I never cared about one by one, and I listened, dumbfounded. So without me knowing, we had so many intersections. So my self-perceived invisible man life had long been silently watched by a pair of eyes. I felt like I'd been stripped naked standing before her. All my disguises, all my slacking, seemed so laughable in this moment. I've observed you for a long time, Jason. Elena's eyes became serious like never before. I found that you were different from them. Then yeah, the guys chasing me, she said. They only like the label campus queen, Elena. They send flowers, write letters, play guitar into my dorm. Everything they do feels like completing a quest. I get the girl mission, but you're different. She looked at me, eyes flashing with a strange light. You're real. You're funny. You live. Very true to yourself. You don't care about others' opinions. You just want to live your own life. You're like a pearl hidden in a shell. Outside looks ordinary, but inside hides the brightest delight. Listening to this rainbow fart of compliments worthy of a perfect essay score, I felt my face burning enough to fry an egg. Pearl. Me lady. Do you have some misunderstanding about me? That's not living true to myself. That's being too lazy to move. That's not ignoring opinions. That's social anxiety. As for the pearl, at best I'm a grain of sand in the shell, the unpolished kind. So I spoke with difficulty. You like me just because of this? Yeah, she nodded heavily. I felt like suffocating. What is this? I slack off based on talent. But it becomes a virtue attracting the most popular girl. Is there any justice in this world? I was incoherent. Elena, I think you might need to calm down. Your understanding of me might not be deep enough. I'm very calm. She interrupted me. And I want to understand you deeper. Saying that, she took another step forward. The distance between us was so close. I could smell her faint scent. I could see her long eyelashes like 2 small fans in the moonlight. My heart began to pound disappointingly fast. Uh, thump thump. Jason. She looked up, staring straight into my eyes. Be my boyfriend. Okay, boom. I felt my brain completely explode. B minus be her boyfriend. Me, Jason Hayes. An ordinary salted fish becoming the boyfriend of the campus queen. If this news gets out, Brad will skin me alive. Chris will turn into a vengeful spirit and sing sad songs at my bedside every night. No, absolutely not. My peaceful life cannot be destroyed like this. I took a deep breath, ready to use all my willpower to reject this tempting proposal. However, just as I was about to speak, an untimely sound rang out from the bushes behind us. Elena. It was Chris. He was holding his phone, seemingly recording. When our eyes met, the expression on his face was as colorful as a palette. Awkwardness, shock, guilt, and a hint of despair. He laughed dryly, scratching his head. I was passing by, just here to catch crickets. Me, Elena. This was probably the most awkward moment of my life. 100 times more awkward than being publicly questioned in the library section, wingman or traitor. Chris was eventually dragged out of the bushes by me. He lowered his head like a child who made a mistake, afraid to look at us. Talk, what's going on? I asked with a dark face. I was just worried about you. Chris's voice was as small as a mosquito's hum. I was afraid Brad's gang would come trouble you again. So I secretly followed you. This excuse sounded loyal enough. But when I saw the recording interface on his phone screen that he hadn't closed yet, I knew it wasn't that simple. Then why are you recording? I pointed at his phone. I want to keep evidence in case you got hurt. Chris's eyes darted around. I believe him like I believe in ghosts. He just wanted to film me getting rejected by Elena, so he could mock me later. Just as I prepared to continue the interrogation, Elena suddenly spoke. It doesn't matter. Chris and I both paused. What doesn't matter? I asked. Elena looked at Chris. Her expression calm. You want to pursue me? Right. Chris's face turned red instantly. He nodded, then shook his head quickly, but finally chose honesty. Yeah. And then I nodded. Then I'll give you a chance now. A chance. Chris's eyes lit up instantly. I looked at her curiously, wondering what trick she was playing. Elena's gaze turned to me, then back to Chris. Starting today, you to chase me together. Me, Chris. Both of us issued questions from the soul. Chase you together. What does that mean? Chris asked, stuttering. It means fair competition. Elena's tone was like announcing a major business decision. I will give you the same tasks, the same opportunities. Whoever moves me in the end, I'll be with him. She paused, adding, of course, if neither of you satisfies me, I won't take either. I felt my jaw hitting the floor. Is this some new type of battle royale romance? Put two suitors together. Let them kill each other. Then pick the winner. Lady, are you choosing a boyfriend or a gladiator champion? Chris was clearly shaken by this proposal too. He looked at me, then at Elena, expression shifting from ecstasy to confusion to struggle. Then Jason and I. We become rivals. Yes, Elena nodded. Then her gaze landed meaningfully on me. But someone seems to claim he has no interest in me, and only wants to be your wingman. So this shouldn't count as rivals, right? At most. Sparring partner. I got it. I completely got it. This woman is forcing me into the game. She knows I value brotherhood and don't want to fall out with Chris. She also knows I hate trouble and don't want to get involved in emotional entanglements. So she tied us together. If I refuse, it's like directly giving the chance to Chris. If I participate, I walk right in her trap. Brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. This move of retreating to advance is an open conspiracy. Looking at this girl with the cloudy light expression for the first time, I felt a deep weariness. This isn't some innocent fairy. This is a scheming, calculating demoness. Well, do you agree? Elena looked at us, issuing the ultimatum. What could I say? I looked at Chris, who looked conflicted, but hid a trace of expectation in his eyes, and sighed silently. Fine, things have come to this. I just have to play along. Consider it taking a bullet for a brother. I have no objection. I squeezed out the words. Hearing me agree. Chris gritted his teeth and puffed out his chest. I have no objection either. I will prove I love you more than he does. Good. Elena nodded with satisfaction. She took two identical sticky notes from her pocket. So here's your first task. Chris and I took the notes simultaneously. I opened mine to see a line of elegant handwriting. Tomorrow morning at 8 am at Lover's Lane. Bring me a heartfelt breakfast. Requirement. Must be hand-made. Handmade. Heartfelt breakfast. Looking at this note, I felt my headache returning. I'm someone who can't even fry an egg properly. Making a heartfelt breakfast. This is killing me. I looked at Chris. He had the same constipated expression. Clearly, this pampered young master was facing the same world-class problem. Okay, task distributed. Elena clapped her hands. I await your performance. By with that. She hummed a tune and skipped away into the night with light steps, leaving me and Chris two miserable men holding the deadly notes messy in the wind. Silence. Long silence. Chris broke the silence first, his voice trembling. Can you cook? I shook my head. I can't either. Chris's face scrunched into a bitter melon. What do we do? Suddenly, as if thinking of something, his eyes lit up, grabbing my arm. Jaden, you say you're my wingman. Yes, so then, tomorrow can you just make something random? Make it taste bad. He looked at me expectantly. That way wouldn't it highlight my excellence? I looked at him, feeling my fist harden. I see it now. What brotherhood? What fair competition? From this moment on, he and I are sworn enemies. Section. The breakfast battle. For the so-called heartfelt breakfast, Chris and I didn't sleep all night. First, we begged and borrowed a small electric skillet from the door next door. Then we frantically studied IO failure breakfast tutorials online. From simple fried eggs to slightly complex sandwiches to fancy French toast, we were as old and confident. However, reality is cruel. At Fram, when the two of us dark circles under eyes sneakily began our first cooking attempt on the balcony, disaster struck. The first egg was cracked by Chris onto the outside of the pan. The second egg I cracked in but forgot oil. It burnt. The third egg we finally managed to fry. Well, an irregularly shaped, dark-colored thing that could tentatively be called an egg. Chris and I looked at that egg like the fathers who just delivered a baby, smiling with relief. However, when we tried to make sandwiches, new problems arose. Do we slice the tomato or chop it? Does mayo go on the bread or the lettuce? This ham. Why does it feel slimy? At 5 a.m., we declare the sandwich plan a total failure. We looked at the table of ingredients we had destroyed, falling into deep despair. It's over. We're doomed. Chris slumped on the floor, losing the will to live. I was desperate to, but as a forced competitor, I couldn't show it. I took a deep breath and stood up. No, it's not over. I pointed to a remaining bag of flour, a carton of milk, and a few eggs. We have one last choice. Chris followed my finger looking confused. That is, pancakes. I said. I watched a tutorial. Mix that stuff together. Pour it in the pan. Fried both sides yellow. Simple, crude, effective. So we began our final struggle. Facts prove that pancakes were indeed the salvation for kitchen idiots like us. Although the first one was burned like charcoal, because the heat was too high. The second one spread into a mat, because the batter was too thin. But the third one, after we learned our lessons, finally succeeded. A golden, round pancake emitting a faint milky scent appeared before us. Chris and I were so excited we almost hugged and cried. Dawn broke. We each took our carefully ruined, heartfelt breakfast and walked toward Lover's Lane like soldiers marching to war. I made pancakes. Though the presentation was average, they were edible. Chris made the fried egg and ham sandwich from his final struggle. Though the bread was burnt and the ham curled, it looked somewhat like a meal. When we arrived, Elena was already there. She wore sportswear, sitting on the grass reading an English novel. The morning light fell on her beautiful as an oil painting. Seeing us, she closed the book and stood up, smiling. You're here. Chris and I handed over our lunchboxes simultaneously, like two concubines waiting for the emperor's selection. Elena's gaze first fell on Chris's box. Chris nervously opened the lid. Inside was a burn sandwich he had carefully arranged into a heart shape. Elena's expression froze for a second. Then her gaze turned to me. I braced myself and opened my box. Inside were the pancakes of different sizes and shades. Elena looked at my pancakes and fell silent. The air was filled with an indescribable awkwardness. Chris broke the silence first, trying to salvage the situation. This one, although it doesn't look great, I put a lot of ingredients in it. Ham, lettuce, and a slice of my true heart. Elena nodded. Then she picked a piece of lettuce from Chris's sandwich, put in her mouth. Chew, then she said to Chris. Thank you. I received your heart. With that, she closed the box and returned it to him. Chris. Then Elena turned to me. She picked up a piece of my pancake and put it in her mouth. I watched her, nervously. Don't spit it out. Don't spit it out. She chewed slowly. Then looking at me, she smiled. A little sweet. I sighed in relief. Good, no poison. You both worked hard. Elena said to us. Today's breakfasts were both good. She paused, then delivered the final verdict. But, if I have to choose one. Chris and I both held our breath. I choose Jason's. Boom, Chris's world collapsed again. He stared blankly at Elena, then at me, eyes full of confusion and grief. Why, he couldn't help asking. My sandwich has more ingredients. It looks more thoughtful than his. Yeah, that's true. Elena nodded. Then she picked up another piece of my pancake and held it in front of him. But Jason's pancake isn't burnt. One sentence fatality. Chris looked at that ugly button burned pancake, then at his carbon-edge heart-shaped sandwich. Speechless. Lost completely. All right. First task over. Elena clapped her hands, announcing Jason +1 point. Chris 0 points. She actually has a point system. I felt my life sprinting in an increasingly ridiculous direction. Section. The date invitation. The breakfast battle ended with my Pyrrhic victory. Chris was depressed for days. His look changed from sworn enemy to a sorrowful "why does God favor you?" I tried to comfort him. Chris, don't lose heart. There are chances later. He looked up at the ceiling at a 45-degree angle, sorrowfully saying, Jay, you don't understand. When a man loses to another man in cooking, he has lost everything. Me, not really. Truly not really. As for me, although I won, I wasn't happy at all, because I felt like I had fallen into a carefully designed trap. Elena's next task was delayed, but she launched a fiercer attack on me under the name of Winner's Reward. Jason, as a reward, I decided to treat you to a movie this weekend. Jason, here's your reward, Bob A.T. Jason, I got your lunch for you. Your reward. I felt like I was drowning in these rewards, living every day under Chris's sorrowful gaze and the jealous eyes of every guy on campus. Days felt like years. I started missing my old salted fish life of eating and sleeping. And no, I can't go on like this. I must counterattack. I must let her know. I, Jason Hayes, am not a puppet to be manipulated. Soon, an ordinary Wednesday afternoon, when Elena invited me to a newly opened amusement park for the weekend as a reward, I rejected her. Sorry, Elena. I looked at her and said righteously, I already have plans this weekend. Plans? With whom? With a very important person. I was deliberately vague, creating an air of mystery. I thought she would retreat, or at least feel a bit disappointed. However, I was too naive. Elena heard this, and her eyes lit up instead. Very important person. Is it? A girl. Her tone actually held a trace of excitement. Me, this reaction is wrong. Shouldn't you be jealous? Shouldn't you question me? Why are you excited? So what if it is? I said bracingly. That's great. Elena clapped her hands. Perfect. I'm meeting someone this weekend too. We can go together. Me together. Lady, I'm telling you I'm taken. Say you stay away. How did you interpret that as a double date? And not convenient, right? I tried to struggle. What's inconvenient? She looked at it as matter-of-factly. Perfect chance to introduce everyone. Make friends. I felt my brain running out of RAM. I couldn't keep up with their rhythm. But it's settled. She didn't give me any chance to refute. Slapping the table. Saturday morning. 9 a.m. Amusement park A. Be there or be square. Remember to bring your important person. With that, she hummed a song and skipped away, leaving me alone in the wind, messy as a pile of spaghetti code. Where the hell am I going to find an important person? I went back to the dorm and told Chris the whole story. I hope he could give me ideas, or at least sympathize. Result. Chris heard it, was silent for a while. Then he slapped his thigh excitedly. Jade, this is an opportunity. Me opportunity. Yes, his eyes shone with wisdom. Think about it. What a great chance to show my magnanimity. What do you mean? Think. He began analyzing. We can you. Elena and her friend for people. At this moment. Yes, your good brother. Your important person. Make it dazzling entrance. Me wait. My important person is you. Who else? He looked at me with a who else but me face. Imagine the scene. Elena sees me. She'll be surprised. Then I act polite and charming, showing her that not only do I not mind you to being close, I even bless you. This broad-mindedness. This grace. What woman wouldn't be moved? I listen, stunned. It seems somewhat logical. Then you hype me up from the side. Say good things about me. Brothers united. Attacking from inside and outside. Are you afraid? We can't win her over. I looked at him. lost in thought. This plan, sounding a bit twisted. But it seemed to be the only way to solve my dilemma. As long as Elena shifts her attention from me to Chris, what does it matter if I sacrifice a bit and pretend to date him? It's just a bit disgusting. I'll endure it. Oki gritted my teeth. Let's do it. So Chris and I, the Plastic Brothers, formed an evil alliance for our respective goals. Saturday, 9 a.m. amusement park gate. Chris and I stood side by side. He had dressed up specially today. Hair jeweled shiny. Wearing a plaid shirt he thought looked cool. Waiting nervously and expectantly for his goddess. I, on the other hand, wore a look of resignation. Soon Elena's figure appeared in the distance. She wore a pink dress today. A cute clip in her long hair. Looking a bit sweeter than usual. Beside her followed another girl. That girl was petite with short hair and delicate features. But her expression was icy like an emotional doll. Elena pulled that girl walking quickly toward us. Jason, Chris, you're here. She greeted us with a smile. And she pulled the short-haired girl forward to introduce her. Let me introduce you. This is my roommate. An important person I invited today. Sasha Cole. Chris and I nodded politely. The girl named Sasha just glanced at us coldly, not speaking. Okay, everyone's here. Elena clapped her hands. Then her gaze fell on Chris and me standing side by side. She tilted her head, asking Jason curiously. By the way, Jason, where's the important person you invited? Here it comes. The main event. I took a deep breath, just about to push Chris forward according to the script. However, before I could speak, a voice I never dreamed of rang out from behind me. Sorry. I'm late. The voice was gentle, pleasant, and carried a familiar trace of WEF. I turned around sharply. Standing behind me was someone in a long dress. Exquisite makeup. A man. No white. That face was clearly the theater major junior from the dorm next door. Timmy, who practiced falsetto on the balcony every day. Why is he here? Before I could recover from the shock, Timmy had already walked up to me. Then under everyone's petrified gaze, he extended hands paler than a woman's and affectionately linked arms with me. He flashed a smile at Elena so sweet it was criminal and said in a pinched voice, "Hi there, sweetie. I am Jason's important person." Section. Amusement park chaos at that moment. Time seemed to stop. Only Timmy's sickly sweet tilde echoed in the air. Me, Chris, Elena, and her ice queen roommate Sasha. The four of us stood at the gate like statues struck by lightning. My brain had turned into mush. What is this situation? Why did this junior suddenly appear? And why say something so shocking? I tried to pull my arm out of his gentle embrace. Result. He hugged tighter, looking at me with eyeliner-rimmed eyes full of grievance. JJ, what's wrong? Don't you like it when I do this? May felt like vomiting. On the other side, Chris's expression was beyond colorful. It was the blank stare of a man whose worldview had been pulverized. He looked at me, then at Timmy. His mouth opened and closed. Finally, his gaze landed on our tightly interlocked arms. Then, with a tone of someone who had seen through the vanity of life, he said, I get it. You get it. Get what? Don't get anything. I was anxious enough to cry. However, most surprising was Elena's reaction. She recovered quickly from the initial shock. She looked Timmy up and down, then looked at me, and the corner of her mouth actually hooked into an amused smile. So it's like that. She nodded. Tone unreadable. Friend. She emphasized the word friend. Timmy immediately showed a hostile expression. She's very pretty. But my JJ only likes my type. Saying that, he deliberately rubbed his head on my shoulder. I had goosebumps all over. I felt my life was completely out of control. From a two guys chasing a girl romance, it instantly turned into an annual ethical drama involving betrayal, lies and confusion. And I was the innocent, pitiful protagonist. Okay, since everyone is here, Elena acted completely unaffected, clapping her hands enthusiastically. Let's go in. Goal for today. Ride everything. So our bizarre group of 5 walked into the amusement park under the strange gazes of bystanders. The next few hours were a public execution for me. Roller coaster. Timmy screamed the whole time, hugging my arm to death, burying his head in my chest. Chris SAT staring out at the scenery with a look of hopelessness. Elena and Sasha were calm. Merry-go-round. Timmy insisted on sitting on the same horse as me, asking me to take photos. Chris chose a horse furthest away, spinning in solitude. Elena kept snapping photos of me and Timmy with a meaningful smile. Haunted house, my biggest breakdown. Timmy acted like an octopus hanging on me. constantly crying JJ. I'm scared. Chris got scared by a jumping ghost and hugged the ice queen Sasha. For the first time, a crack appeared on Sasha's frozen face. She kicked Chris away. Elena wandered through, holding a flashlight, studying the mechanisms and greeting ghosts. Hi, nice makeup. What brand of fake blood? The ghost froze, questioning its existence. I felt everyone in this team had issues. Finally, after enduring 81 trials, we arrived at the Ferris wheel. Rules. Max for people per cabin. We have 5. Awkward. Then ill-sit with Sasha. Elena broke the deadlock. Then she smiled at the 3 of us. You 3 take 1. May looked at Chris and Timmy, who was still winking at me. My legs went soft, trapping me with them in a small, enclosed, rising space for 10 minutes. Might as well lock me in an asylum. Before I could protest, Chris exploded. I won't sit. He pointed at me, then at Timmy, eyes red like an angry bull. Jason Hayes, I misjudged you. I treated you as a brother. You actually. He was too angry to speak. I get it now. You are my wingman, and you aren't Elena's suitor. You're a liar. With that, he turned and stormed out of the line, disappearing into the crowd. Dead silence. Only me, Elena, Sasha, and the innocent-looking Timmy remained. JJ. Timmy tugged my shirt, whispering, did he misunderstand something? I looked at him, head pounding. I took a deep breath, yanked my arm out of his grip and stared at him, enunciating clearly. Student, do we know each other? Section. There's only one truth. Timmy was stunned by my question. He blinked those innocent eyes, looking aggrieved. JJ, how can you say that? Of course we know each other. I sneered. Why don't I remember knowing such an important person? Hi, he stammered. Elena and Sasha watched him with interest, like watching a good show. I crossed my arms looking down at him. Who sent you? My intuition told me this wasn't simple. His timing was too perfect. His words and actions were too staged. His goal seemed to be disrupting the state and making Chris break with me. Seeing my sharp gaze, Timmy finally dropped the act. The pitiful expression faded, replaced by a cunning look of success. He dropped the falsetto, voice returning to a normal male tone. Okay, admit I was acting. Who sent you? I asked again. He didn't answer me. Instead, he turned his gaze to Elena. He gave her a fawning smile. Elena, darling, how was my acting? Satisfied. Boom, my brain exploded again. Elena was sent by Elena. I snapped my head toward Elena. She looked calm as ever, pulling a $100 bill from her pocket and handing it to Timmy. Good acting. Thanks for the hard work. Here's your pay. Timmy happily took the money and bowed. Thanks, Elena. Call me for any more good gigs like this. With that, he ran off. Only me, Elena, and the outsider Sasha remained. I looked at Elena, feeling all my blood rushing to my head. I gritted my teeth. What the hell are you doing? I was truly angry. From the basketball game to the breakfast to today, I felt like a clown played in the palm of her hand. She challenged my bottom line repeatedly, turning my life into a mess. Do you think this is funny? I demanded. Elena looked at me, her smile fading. She was silent for a moment, then said softly, Jason, don't be angry yet. Let me explain. Fine, I explain. I crossed my arms. I did this. She looked at me seriously. Help you. Help me. I laughed in anger. You scared off my best friend. Made the whole school think I'm a timing jerk who likes cross-dressers. And you call that helping me? Really, you're a good brother. He asks you to be a wingman. But when you're misunderstood by the school, he chooses to watch your misery. He talks about fair competition, but secretly asks you to throw the game. Is a person like that really your friend? I was speechless, because what she said seemed to be facts. And Brad, she continued, he threatened you in your dorm just because of me. Do you think a narrow-minded, violent person deserves to be your rival? And those people on the forums who call you scum based on one photo, they don't know you, yet attack you with vicious words. Do their opinions really matter? She walked toward me step by step. Her gaze was like a scalpel, cutting open the reality I had been avoiding. Jason. She stopped in front of me, looking up. I did all this just to make you see clearly who treats you well, and who is worth your care. I opened my mouth but couldn't say a word. My heart was a mess. I always thought Elena disrupted my peace, but now I realized my peace was a facade hiding fragile friendships and fake relationships. Elena was the intruder who tore it all down and laid it out for me. I admit my methods might be extreme. Her tone softened apologetically. But I just didn't want to see you continue like that. Like what? Like a snail hiding in its shell. She said. You're smart. Funny. Yet you hide. Pretending to be an invisible slacker. Jason. You aren't a slacker. You're just afraid of being seen. I looked at her thumb hard. So that's how she sees me. SOA blush rose on Eleanor's face. She looked down shyly. We understand now. I looked at her with mixed feelings. I was silent for a long time. Long enough that even the Ice Queen Sasha glanced at me. Finally I spoke. I understand. Eleanor's eyes lit up. Then you. I understand. I enunciated clearly. You said so much. Set up so much. Actually, the truth is only one thing. You just want to date me. Section. Chris's awakening. Eleanor was thrown off by my sudden flirting. Her pale face turned red instantly like a ripe apple. You nonsense. I do not. She stammered. But her dodging eyes betrayed her. Beside us. The silence ashes seemed to smirk slightly. Must be my imagination. Yes, really. I stepped forward, mimicking her earlier move, cornering her. Then why go to such lengths? Hired actors. Tests. What for? For me to help you cheat on finals. She retreated step by step. Eyes panicked, losing her queen in control. Or it turns out this scheming little fox gets flustered too. Seeing her cute appearance, my anger vanished, replaced by a feeling, sweet and ditchy, scratching my heart. All right. Teasing over. I smiled, stepping back to give her space. Thanks for today. Thank me. She paused. Yeah, I nodded. Thanks for making me see a lot of things clearly. And thanks for letting me see a different side of you. I kept the second half inside. That day, returning from the park, a wonderful understanding formed between us. We didn't break the paper window, but we knew things were different. She stopped using weird tasks. Our interactions became natural. We studied quietly in the library, shared food in the cafeteria, walked on the track at dusk talking about movies and games. I found that without the campus queen halo, she was just a normal laughing girl, and I got used to days with her. My slacker heart was slowly warmed by her. Of course, a huge problem remained. Chris, since running off, he cut ties with me completely. He built an invisible wall in the dorm. I knew he was angry, or rather, angry at himself. I tried to talk, but he avoided me. Until a week later. That night, returning from the library, I saw Chris sitting on a balcony drinking alone. Several empty beer bottles lay at his feet. I walked over and sat down. Drinking alone is boring. I took a beer from his hand and took a sip. He didn't stop me. Just smiled self-deprecating lie. Am I a dumbass? A little. I answered honestly. He choked, then laughed harder. Yeah, him a dumbass. I chased her for a year. Didn't even know what she likes. I only knew she was the campus queen. Pretty. And getting her would bring status. I thought treating her well and buying gifts would make her like me. But I never truly tried to know her. He turned to me, eyes holding a sobriety I'd never seen. But you, Jason, he said, you did nothing. Yet you understand her better than I do. What do I understand? I was surprised. You understand she doesn't need flashy pursuits or fawning. She just needs someone to sit quietly in the library with her all afternoon. Someone interesting who gets her. And that person is you. Not me. He finished chugging a huge gulp. I looked at him, feeling complicated. Turns out this usually careless guy understood everything. He was just blinded by obsession. Chris, don't say it. He waved me off. I'm not here to settle scores. I'm here to apologize. Apologize. Yeah, he nodded earnestly. I was petty. I shouldn't have been jealous or misunderstood you. You're my brother. I shouldn't have treated you like that. I wanted to speak. Also, he smiled suddenly. Thank you. Thank me. Yeah, thanks for making me lose so thoroughly. So clearly. And for waking me from this unrealistic dream. He stood up, stretching like he unloaded a heavy burden. From today on, I, Chris Hall, officially give up chasing Elaine Advance. He said it decisively. And he winked at me like a sly cat. J-Bro can only help you this far. The rest depends on you. Section. My girlfriend Chris's awakening cleared the gloom over our dorm. We made up. He returned to being the familiar idiot roommate who stole my snacks. Only he stopped talking about Elena. He focused energy on studies. Another girl's. In his words, plenty of fish in the sea. I was narrow-minded before. Now I see the juniors in our department are cute too. I was happy for him. And with this obstacle gone, my relationship with Elena became more subtle. The window paper was thin, but neither of us poked it. We enjoyed the more than friends, less than lovers ambiguity until finals week. As a veteran slacker, finals were usually painful. But this year, the pain had a hint of sweetness. Elena actively took on tutoring me. Every night, she dragged me to the library highlighting key points. Under her devil training, my failing grades miraculously improved. I discovered studying wasn't so painful when your teacher is a gentle, beautiful girl. The night the last exam ended, our class organized a farewell dinner. Everyone toasted. Dreaming of winter break. 3 rounds of drinks later, the atmosphere heated up. The class monitor suggested truth or dare. My heart skipped a beat. Bad feeling. Sure enough, first round, the bottle pointed straight at me. The class erupted in cheers. Jason. Truth or dare? Looking at their mischievous smiles, I gritted my teeth. Truth. Dare was too dangerous. The monitor smiled like an old fox. Okay, and my question is, he dragged it out. What exactly is your relationship with Elena Vance? Here it is. I knew they wouldn't let this go. I became the center of attention. Everyone held their breath. My palms sweat. What do I say? Classmates. Even I don't believe that. Friends. Seems more than that. My brain was chaos. Just as I was about to crash, my phone dinged. A message from Elena. Just a picture. A screenshot of a library seat reservation. It clearly showed Elena Vance has reserved a seat next to seat 07. Area F reading room for tomorrow 9 am seat 08. Below the picture was a small line of text. I want to be with you during winter break too. I stare at the message, stunned. Then I smiled. I smiled like a fool. I looked up, meeting the gossiping gazes of the whole class. I took a deep breath. Then with a firm, loud voice I'd never used before, I said, "She's my girlfriend." Story complete.